His nerves were killing him, his knees shook wildly as he stood in front of the gate. Most people were wearing their school uniforms as was the most professional way to dress, but he was just wearing a pair of black shorts with a green stripe, his red sneakers and a white hoodie that had the school motto, Plus Ultra, on it. Walking through the gate he let out a sigh, then was immediately stopped by an angry voice. Deku. Izuku turned around and looked down into his sparking eyes. Hey, Kachan. Katsuki sized him up quickly and said, you have grown since we hung out last. I went on vacation for 2 months and come back to this. You nerd. He was right, of course. They kept up through text, mostly angry ones from Bakugo complaining, but they still talked. Izuku now stood at 6 feet tall even and weighed about 150 pounds. His lean and tall frame was supported by rippling and athletic muscles. He had an 8-pack which led down to a sharp V at his waist and strong pecs. His green hair had gotten longer on top, now sweeping down over his right eye. He kept the sides shaved still, but the top was long and unruly as it has always been. He wore a pair of thin red Converse and they matched his features perfectly, giving him an overall hot appearance as if he was not trying but still looked ready to be on a fashion magazine. Izuku, however, was oblivious to this and was only wearing his workout clothes. And yes, he worked out in Converse. They were the most comfortable to him. He also had a simple band Kachan had given him for his birthday last year. He told him it was good luck when he fought. It was simple and had almost no physical value. It was green like his hair with blue details. He liked it and wore it all the time on his left wrist. To say the least, Bakugo was pissed that his nerdy friend surpassed him so much in his attractiveness and height. Even if Izuku did not realize he in fact did. You look ugly. He started, it looks like you literally just woke up and did not even try to look decent. Izuku only nodded and said, sorry, I had a long night of recovery after training the last few days. Did you do your training routine I made for you? Nodding, Kachan handed the papers back. Izuku had given him detailed exercises, yoga poses, and meditation tips on how to control his body and quirk. He even invited him to Jane's cafe. He did not tell Kachan she was All Might's sister but said she was a family friend. Every morning they meditated together. That is, they did, until Bakugo went on a summer trip. On the trip he needed to stay in peak performance to come back to the UA exams as the best he could. So they have not seen each other or meditated at the cafe. He was thankful that she let them use it. She even paid for them to build a Zen garden on the roof of the building. Of course customers also used it, but those who did had always been respectful. Handing over the papers made them seem chummy, making other examinees laugh at them. The second boy scoffed and began to walk away. When they were shoulder to shoulder he punched him and said, you had better fucking make it into UA or I will kill your ass, Deku. He walked into the massive building leaving Izuku alone on the sidewalk entrance. He got over his fears after a few pep talks and took off by saying he could do it, only to feel himself begin to fall. Then it stopped. Just like that, he felt a hand on his bag and shoulder and then someone leveled him and he was standing on solid ground. Gravity kicked back on and he shook himself from the weird feeling. Turning around, heat increased into his face as his cheeks flushed crimson. "IIT, thanks for helping stop me from falling," he stuttered as the beautiful girl who stood before him smiled. Uraraka tilted her head in confusion. A boy who looked 15 or 16 with the beauty of a male model and the body of a god was stuttering nervously and blushing for some reason. She chopped it up to nerves and being embarrassed by falling, and she said, "Sorry, I used my quirk on you without asking permission first, Deku. I just saw you fall and didn't want you to get hurt, ya know. It would be bad luck if you fell on your face before the exam, right? Anyways, I am Uraraka Ochako. Nice to meet you." She stuck out a hand and he took it while his blush deepened. He said something about his name and shook her hand. She looked at his hand and almost gasped at the old scar tissue visible on his right hand. Izuku caught her looking and shoved his hands in his pockets after flipping up his hood and said, "I know they are ugly. I am sorry, Uraraka-chan. Good luck." His depressed voice sent shivers down her back as she felt immensely guilty for looking at them and making a face. She had no clue how such a handsome guy could think himself ugly because of scars. And man was he cute. And ripped. Like his calf muscles, which she watched as he walked away, were like solid rocks. She stood shell-shocked until he was gone, and then a pang in her heart hit her as she realized the negative effect she had on the stuttering boy in the white hoodie. He was already super nervous, and on top of that she had made him felt self-conscious. She felt her heartstrings tighten and she felt bad for Deku. From Izuku's point of view, he sat in the Grand Hall auditorium with his hood up and wiped a tear or two from his face. Why had he expected anything but a scared expression? She had seen how ugly he was. How his cursed skin was trashed because he was weaker when he received them. He remembered his experiences for giving him those scars. They were truly necessary for him to grow, but they were constant reminders on his skin that he was not powerful to protect himself. And when he did have the power, he did not have the capacity to wield it. Flashback, kinda Izuku paused but not. 5 months into training with All Might, he had finished training on the beach and cleaning it up, and All Might clapped him on his back. Good job, my boy. You have done wonderfully. You exceeded all of my expectations. Now look at that view. Anyway, I need to go take care of business. See you. He zoomed away and Izuku turned off all of his quirks to feel natural again. He began to meditate. He had realized something when he got One for All. Although his stockpiling quirk had a stronger power, it took many times longer to activate. He had to go into a paralyzed-like state for about 60 seconds to access his power with that. Once he did that, he could access all the power his body could handle. But there were 2 drawbacks, first thing being the initial time it takes. He had to have a full minute to activate his quirk Sands of Power, as he called the stockpiling quirk. The quirk basically took his consciousness from his body, and anyone could do anything to him for 60 seconds while doing that. And second was he could only control so much of that massive power. Sure, he could heal himself, but it took a lot of energy and he still needed to use a good amount of his stored energy. It takes about a day to collect enough energy for a handful of sand, though in perspective he had more power stored than he hoped he would ever need, but he had to use 200 days worth of sand to heal the damage his body used from an attack with 1 day's worth of sand. He calculated it out and found he had enough to use about 10,000 punches of the same caliber as the one he released when he was younger in the forest and be able to heal it every time. He left his soul only to fail to be able to open his eyes. Why is it every freaking time I am distracted I am trapped? He questioned. His hands were chained in extremely thick handcuffs and he had a cover over his eyes. He tried and failed to activate his quirk and realized none of his quirks were working and began to panic. What was going on? Ha 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 ha. We finally got him, George. We got All Might's son. With those handcuffs you cannot use your quirks. So now you will just have to comply with use until we kill your daddy, kid. Your quirk doesn't work, so don't even think about trying to escape. Plus, you don't want to see my quirk. George, you might be able to beat if you did have one, but my quirk will be the one to get All Might. Billy, don't be an idiot. This kid couldn't break out of those cuffs. They are 1 inch of cold steel. And we are in a ballistic-proof van. There is no way he could escape even with his quirk. Midoriya assesses the situation calmly and quickly. 2 men, he was kidnapped, they wanted All Might. 1 villain wanted to use his quirk on All Might. It is likely it is either a chemical or brain-altering quirk. He cursed, needing more details. He did not have any of his quirks but grinned. The collar only blocked quirks that he had to activate, like One for All, All-Seeing Eyes, or the Sands of Power. But his strategic brain could not be stopped with any quirk jammer. With that information, Izuku thought of plenty of ways to escape when he felt the van stop. Oh no. He was thrust out and onto the cold ground. He heard water dripping and his heightened senses allowed him to diagnose the situation. He seemed to be in a large empty warehouse. His cuffs, collar, and whatever they were using to cover his face did not block his other senses. He continued thinking of ways to escape when he felt something against him. His shirt was ripped from his skin and George laughed insanely. If he won't show up, at least I will get some pleasure from ripping the flesh from your body. I will use this scalpel to make you feel pain you could not imagine. His giddy and insane laugh made Izuku's sweat drop. His mind racing with was to do when he felt a sharp and screaming pain rip through his chest as his nerves begged him to stop the pain. Being stabbed once in the abdomen was enough for him to let out a scream. The maniac cried in ecstasy of his pain and pulled the scalpel out. Blood left his body as immense pain tore through him. Such a small knife had made such a deep and painful incision. He chuckled and said, "For such a weak little fucking shit you have quite a lot of muscles." Almost no fat tissue. So much fun to see small ones squirming like you are now. He stabbed again perpendicular to the last cut, making 2 lines like an addition sign. He walked away after that. Izuku counted in his head the time elapsed each time one would walk by. After about 2 hours Billy came and said, "I do not hate you as much as I hate your father, so tell us his identity and I will not do this." He felt a long knife poke into his side, but not enough to cut. "Fuck you. I would never betray All Might. I will never give you jack shit, you evil villain." That was not what the man wanted to hear. His screams haunted the warehouse as he thrashed, trying to get away from the knife. His legs and thighs were chained to the stool, or else he would have killed him at that moment. He had made a massive X across his back, cutting not only the skin but the muscles. It was a deep wound, but not enough for him to die immediately or hit his spine and be paralyzed. But blood poured out of the wound and onto the ground. He grunted in pain as the knife stopped at the end back of his lower left side, and he clenched his teeth and bit his lip to keep from crying. This aching in his abs and back was something terrible, but he had to endure it. If he could just stay conscious long enough to find a way out of the collar that blocked the use of his quirks. He was left alone for 10 hours to sit and ache in pain before the pair had another outburst. George ran up to him and shook him, making him cry out in pain from his cuts. They began to burn as they had gotten worse and possibly infected. "Where the hell is your paw, kid?" His grip on Izuku was sure to leave bruises. "Does it look like I am his mom? I don't keep tabs on All Might. Plus he isn't my father." He was cut off by a slap to the face which stung. There was so much power behind it he was knocked out. When he came to, his body was aching from being sat on a stool and tied up like this for so long. "It has been 2 fucking days. Where the hell is All Might, Billy?" "I do not know, George. Look, the kid is awake. I cannot believe he was out for so long because of your fucking super strength." His quirk was strength. Yes, that makes his plan a lot easier. I bet you idiots think you are stronger than him, but if that is what you think, then you have something else coming to you. He was slapped in the face, but this time it did not cock him out. The bruising and black eye he had on his face was evidence of that. He would now have a bruise on both sides of his face. There was laughter, and just the crazy sound was enough to make Izuku shiver from fear of what he knew was to come. He felt sweat and dried blood covering him, making him feel gross, but that feeling was replaced by dread as he was angry at them and snapped stupidly. If he had not been an idiot and opened his mouth like everyone says he always does, he would not be feeling Im's pain from the scalpel scraping the bone as it cut a large ruler-sized incision across his shoulder blade. He began to cry hot tears that washed dirt and sweat off his face. Another day passed with Izuku not sleeping once out of sheer will, resolve, and a dash of pain. And when he means dash, he means fucking massive amounts of pain. His brain raked himself, then he heard a scream, "I am fucking done waiting. Let's kill him." Billy, the quirkless and impatient one, walked towards Izuku slowly and began to press the large buck knife into his skin. He ripped the blindfold off so Izuku could watch himself be killed and see the murderers' faces. Billy slowly pushed the knife deeper and he knew death was upon him. This villain was an inch away from his heart. He would have stabbed straight if not for the doors bursting open and a long scarf zooming faster than the villain could react and pushing the knife away from his heart, making him scream. The knife cut deep through his fat tissue and into his left bicep, then out of his body. He looked at the door to see All Might, Present Mike, Eraserhead, Nezu, Snipe, Smintos, and a detective. 6 pro heroes AMD the police had came to rescue him. He was about to smile when his senses kicked in and he bent backwards, dodging a knife slash which would have cut his throat. Snipe shot the blade from his hands and he pulled out a gun. He shot at Present Mike and Smintos. They both barely blocked the tranquilizer darts and Snipe shot Billy with a tranquilizer back. George grinned wildly and said in a maniacal voice, "You should not have brought friends, All Might. Now you will all die." His muscles seemed to grow and he shouted, "My quirks allows me to multiply my strength 100 times over. But only when I am mad. Now I am going to kill you all." Izuku was shocked. 100 times over. He struggled and realized something. He was only trapped by steel. With his legs he flexed hard and unnoticed by anyone present broke the canes on his legs. The man hit Present Mike through the wall and knocked out Smintos. He moved too fast for Eraserhead's quirk and kicked him in the head. That was the last straw. As he hit Snipe in the back of the head, causing him to crumple into a pile on the ground, Izuku's brute strength broke the steel cuffs and he let out a scream, moving everyone's attention to him. With his bare hands he ripped the quirk blocking collar from his throat and threw it to the ground. Izuku grinned and said, "I'm pissed now. You hurt me and I don't care about that. But you will not touch those who help others. Do not hurt them." Subconsciously he had activated his quirk. For the first time in his life he was able to activate and access the sands of power without taking a lot of meditating or a minute of unconsciousness. Because in the heat of the battle his body knew one thing: if the opponent is strong you fight until one is dead or beaten. George simply laughed, "You can do nothing to stop me." Whipping around, he pulled back a fist to kill the detective with a blow to the head. He had put all of his power into the punch and when it connected there was a burst of energy and air that shocked him to the core. His arm and body vibrated and it felt like he had hit a solid wall without his quirk. When the massive burst of air and dust cleared he was absolutely shocked to find something unexpected. A boy who was glowing green stopping his fist and he stood in front of the even more shocked detective. The boy's grin had tears in it as he bled severely. He was smiling through the pain so he could protect the heroes. As ironic as it was, they knew in hindsight no one but All Might and him could have matched that man. He had kicked the asses of pros already, barely trying. But the look in Midoriya's eyes. A burning that not even All Might had as strong as his. The undeniably blinding passion to help and save people. Unknown to Izuku, green lightning arched across his body as he increased his strength and blue fire swirled around his feet. Nezu gasped at the flames. He had seen them before, but if this boy was that man's child. If the man who had become the second most feared villain was this boy's dad and the boy also had one for all. The boy was the one from the prophecy. Normally Nezu would not believe in stuff like that. Predicting the future was not for mortals to do. But Nezu had met with a god. He was dying. He was an ancient god who was the one to bless Nezu. Of course, with Nezu's almost infinite intelligence he had realized the correlation between gods and quirks. Through his life he has had the pleasure of meeting a few. But the god who had came to him dying was one of the gods fighting in the godly war of good versus evil. He was one of the good gods and had the domains of intelligence and prophecy. Plus he was a god, so Nezu believed him. And if Izuku was the boy from the prophecy, which he highly suspected after seeing this, then he needed to interject in his life as soon as possible. He thanked the gods he knew that Midoriya was training with All Might because that meant he could get him to Ua and Nezu could watch him carefully. There was so much more to the world than anyone but Nezu and a certain few knew. Even All Might did not realize there were more to quirks than the eye could see. But damn, this kid is strong. Izuku crushed the villain's hand, increasing pressure slowly until he was on his knees and crying. He then roundhouse kicked the villain, knocking him unconscious, and through the brick wall next to the hole Present Mike had made. He turned around with a watery smile and all his strength and adrenaline left him in an instant as he fell, completely unconscious, to the ground. The detective, principal, and number one hero all rushed to the boy. Both impressed and shocked at what had happened. "So this is Izuku Midoriya," Nezu said looking at the boy. It was odd, he could see that he also had an aura that made people see him as weak around him. Why would that be? Yes, now we need to take him to the hospital. He has not eaten or drank anything for days and these wounds are horrendous. Let's get both of the villains to the station, the rest of them TP the hospital. In Grand Hall, Present Mike looked directly at him. Though he was told that he was somehow important, he did not remember anything except that he had a ton of nasty cuts from a kidnapping All Might had heard of a few months back. All Might himself begged Aizawa and him to help him. It was the dead of the night on a school night and they were only there because they were grading finals. When the world's greatest hero begs for your help, you get off your ass and help. Those were Aizawa's words, so he followed his best buddy and went with it. He could see Midoriya was stressed and when he took off the hood he was easily the most attractive kid Hisashi had ever seen. And he had met some succubi quirk users, so that is saying something. He seemed to be muttering about him until the kid next to him made an outburst yelling at him to shut up. Midoriya immediately shied away like a kicked puppy, much to Hisashi's confusion. Shaking that off, he continued his "spew the rules. Any questions, listeners?" There was silence. The stiff male raised his hand. "Yes, caller number 7111, what's the sitch?" He pointed to the paper and said in a monotonous voice, You claim there to be only 3 robots in the exam, but the sheet handed out clearly has 4 depicted. If this is a mistake from the world's most elite hero school, it is shameful. He dropped the paper and pointed to Midoriya, you with the green hair. You have been muttering things this entire time and it is truthfully annoying and distracting. If your intent is to dissuade those of us taking this exam seriously or ruin the rest of our chances, then I request you get lost now. Shut your damn mouth, extra. Came a booming voice from the explosive one next to him. The damn nerd can do as he wants, so mind your ass bussiness and stay out of his. And while you are at it, take that stick out of your ass. The male with blue hair looked truly offended and seemed ready to go into a full-fledged debate, so Hazashi stood up and said, "Hey ho kids, hold your horses and rein in that pent-up stress. You all are going to need all your energy later. And for your question, caller number 7111, the fourth and final faux villain is just a rouse. It is worth 0 points, so I would suggest just not fighting it." The boy bowed and said, "Thank you sir, I apologize for my rash assumption." He sat at attention like his spine was fused straight. Izuku sat amongst thousands of applicants from all around the world. Then a thought came to him as his intelligence quirk kicked in. He was in a room full of some of the most powerful and promising kids to live. Every possible student who wants to be a hero wants to come here. With that in his head, he turned on all-seeing eyes on. His eyes took on a green sheen, then it disappeared and he was semi-omnipotent. He read everything about everyone in the room. He got lots of information. He could get everything from height and weight to the name and blood type. He grinned ear to ear as he realized he could do this. He then tried something else. A quirk search. He read everyone and was impressed. Tenya Iida, 15, male, quirk, engine, blood type, A. Tenya's quirk allows him to move at incredible speeds due to engines in his calves. He needs large open spaces to move his fastest and cannot go full speed in a short amount of time or space. Needs wide berths to turn and it is moderately hard to stop from high speeds. Secret move, Reciproco burst. Temporary boost makes engines stop functioning after a short period of moving faster than the eye can see. Weakness, stalls out if uses too much power or runs out of the chemicals which charge his legs. He needs to eat a certain diet so he can have enough of each chemical in his bloodstream. He also must ingest vitamins to keep up his strenuous use of quirk. Izuku did a basic scan of everyone. Even present Mike and Bakugo. Knowing in detail what their quirk is, its strengths, weaknesses, and a person's special move was very helpful. Everyone was given exactly 3 hours to answer a packet of 300 questions. In the history of UA, the highest amount of correct answers on this exam was 200. All Might himself scored 195. The one who made the test was Principal Nezu himself, the super genius bear, mouse, dog that was smarter than any individual in the human race. Izuku's passive intelligence quirk activated and he began answering the test faster than my hand could move. In 1 hour and 15 minutes he set his pencil down, pressing a button on the desk in front of him. A hole appeared in the wood and opened to take the sheet for a computer to grade. After an hour and 45 minutes of analyzing every person's quirks, special moves, and them in particular, a buzzer screamed loudly overhead. He was not surprised to find not a single person did not have some form of quirk. But some were odd or very unique. He could already pick out who he thought would pass based on what he could tell. To pass he needed to get 150 questions right. That may not seem like a lot, but when they are extremely difficult questions they added up. They were dismissed and told to go to the practical. Sitting in front of City B, Izuku was contemplating how he should go about things. He stretched out all-seeing eyes and found there were 500 robots in the city. They were in groups and bunched up. Hell, it was like a buffet line. He memorized their movement and noted that the zero-pointer was massive and able to move freely in the 20 blocks worth of skyscrapers and city. He grinned, and the second that the doors began to open he was gone, leaving streaks of green lightning in his wake. The concrete shattered as he propelled himself forward at mind-boggling speeds. He jumped high into the air, reaching the peaks of skyscrapers, one of the first things he had seen All Might do in person. He began to descend and he saw a group of 5 three-pointers. He destroyed them all before impact and landed on the robots, bodies turning them into flattened scrap metal. He launched into the air again into the middle of the city. 23 pointers, 10 one-pointers, and 22 pointers. He cracked his knuckles and used one for all in his feet to boost his speed. But other than that, it was just his physical hand breaking them into metal shreds, no quirk. Just physical resistance and skill. He moved with grace and speed only achieved from years of training. Years of dedication and more than that, pure battle prowess. By the time the other examinees had time to get to him, he had racked up 125 points. In 4 minutes he had already surpassed All Might's original score of 92 villain points. As shell-shocked as the judges and Present Mike were, the other examinees looked at Midoriya in pure envy and surprise. He had taken out dozens of these things, alone. 3 minutes passed and Izuku was hopping around zooming from place to place. He was in adrenaline high and did not realize he had already gotten 185 points. There was one minute left and he was about to kill a horde of 10 one-pointers when he heard something. From the other side of the city he could see the 0-pointer. And he heard screams. The screams of other examinees. As fast as he could push himself safely, he made it 20 blocks in a matter of seconds. He helped fallen Constants and helped move rubble and fallen parts of buildings, assuring everyone he did not need help and they should go and run. He threw a building roof off of a kid with a naval laser named Aoyama or something and hurt it. "Help me. Someone. Please." The shrill but familiar voice of Uraraka Ochako rang through the air. He whipped to the sound of her voice and saw her legs trapped under a wall of concrete. For some reason he felt an ugly feeling in his gut. He was mad for some reason. He was angry that she was hurt. His veins glowed red and green electricity cracked across his skin, shocking some onlookers from a distance. The massive robot was leaning down with a hulking arm ready to smash her. He ran, sending the road flying behind him, and just as she was about to be crushed, he slid across the pavement, tearing up his knees and caught the fist with both of his own. He was barely next to her, close enough to feel her warmth next to him. The robot pushed, making the bones in his back creak and the motors of the robot almost overheated how they were overdriving. Izuku stood fast, then after a second began to push. He felt like Atlas under the sky with how much weight he was bearing on his shoulders. He began to stand and then threw the fist back, knocking the robot off balance. He grabbed the wall that was on top of Uraraka and spun it like a discus thrower in circles. After a few rotations he launched it at the robot's abdomen. And finally, he launched off the ground, soaring towards the robot. He screamed through the sky, emerald lightning streaking behind him. His fist connected with the robot's face. It sunk in on itself, then flattened, then finally gave way and the robot flew backwards, slamming into the ground. Destroyed. He had only used 50% and knocked it all the way into the skyscraper-sized wall. He fell to the ground, rolled, and just as the time was called stood up while the robot exploded. The examinees were speechless. The examiners were speechless. All Might was speechless. Present Mike was speechless. Ochako was speechless. As the boy walked back, he rubbed his shoulder and quietly began to murmur to himself, "I could have gotten those 5 one-pointers and at least made it an even and nice number." A few pass SD out on the spot. The other who were listening had their jaws on the ground. They had just witnessed something. Something great. They had witnessed Izuku Midoriya's first time fighting with no limits, in a cityscape. He helped Uraraka up and walked her to Recovery Girl, who healed both of their leg injuries like it was nothing and there was not a massive ass-destroyed robot. They had just witnessed the birth of a new era. The era of a new symbol of peace. And Izuku Midoriya was someone who could be undoubtedly named as of that moment. A hero. In the UA conference room, the teachers were discussing things about the upcoming sports festival and the USJ attack. "What you are saying is that this child knocked out 100 villains and took down a monster made to kill All Might. Yes, he truly seems to be out of this world. So about the sports festival. Yes, we will still be holding it. This student that defeated the villains was strong enough to stop a superhuman being made to defeat All Might. And on top of that, most of the top pros of the country will be there. If they wanted to attack, we would have enough defensive capabilities. That is a wise decision, Principal Nezu." After the talks about the sports festival, they decided to bring in pro heroes to talk about the villains and the child defeating the top pro heroes were there, including Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Edgeshot, Mirko, Crust, Kamui Woods, Gang Orca, Sir Night-Eye, Gran Torino and the Wild Pussycats, with some police officers that are in the investigation team. All the heroes were in an uproar at how the villains could get past the US security system when 13 walked in. I have the security cam footage here. He said with determination in his voice, now we'll find out about what happened in detail. And with that 13 put the USB stick into the PC and loaded up the security footage from the USJ incident. I can't imagine what power this child has was all Sir Night-Eye thought about before looking at the projector screen. They all saw a static image which turned to the USJ security camera over the entrance where the students were standing while the portal opened and the villains came out. This is the so-called League of Villains. Then everyone saw the Nomu. So this thing is as strong as All Might, said Mirko with a scared voice. It was defeated by a child, so I wouldn't say so, Endeavor said confidently. They watched the footage when it switched to Izuku showing him activating his God mode, as he told the others to get away from him. All pro heroes were shocked and most of them were in fear that a child emitted the same aura as some big-time villains. They saw the blur going past his classmates and saw the impact he had created at the other side of the USJ, which truly let them question if Izuku was stronger than most pro. They saw the next explosion and the object flying into the other direction. All of them thought about the strength about the boy. All of them thought that he was stronger than them except for Endeavor, who was too confident in his abilities, until they saw that there wasn't the Nomu stuck in the wall, but Izuku of them were shocked to see him in this state, and even Endeavor was taken back by this. All of the pro heroes wished to be there and help them out, but they knew that it is impossible to turn back. The camera view switched to the main one above the students, showing the students and villains. Nomu, kill the students, was all the heroes heard, and they feared for their lives. All Might would just appear and take out the monster, but that didn't. Nomu now stood in front of Uraraka and everyone was on the edge of their seats. The Nomu would have taken only a second to kill Uraraka, but it just exploded into 1,000 pieces while leaving a big puddle of blood. What happened was the reaction of everyone that hadn't seen the scene before. They all just saw Izuku standing behind the Nomu screaming, "I won't let you hurt anyone. What the hell is this power?" Some of the pros asked scared while others were filled with happiness that he took down the villain. But that didn't last for long as the Nomu healed back up. All Might, I would have had big problems with taking down that monster, was the thought that everyone had in mind but was too scared to say it out loud. When the Nomu tried to punch Izuku, they saw the cracks and shockwave Izuku formed just by jumping, and everyone wanted to know how he got, so the school alarm went off and Izuku gave it his 100% and hit the Nomu into the ground, leaving the other villains unconscious just by the shockwave itself. The heroes and police officers had one question in mind: is he actually as strong as All Might? But only All Might knew that he definitely is stronger than they saw Izuku falling and Uraraka trying to catch him, but was happy as All Might got him in the last second. He knocked out 121 villains and killed that so-called Nomu in less than 2 minutes, the police officer said as everyone was shocked at that statement that a child had broken their personal bests and records that they set at defeating the most villains in the least time. How strong do you think he is? Endeavor said with some concern in his voice. His file says his quirk is N. S rank. Everyone was speechless at this, as only All Might and one other person in the world were ever ranked S class. I don't know how strong he is, said the police officer. Maybe in my prime I would have had a chance, but not. Midoriya is definitely stronger than me. All Might thought happy that his successor was already one of the strongest heroes out there. Everyone just looked down at how a 15-year-old student could now be the strongest hero in existence. We want to conduct an experiment with Midoriya and the pro heroes that are currently here. What's the experiment about? Kamui Woods asked. We want to let Izuku Midoriya fight all pro heroes that are here at once to determine the pure strength that he has. All pro heroes thought about how that would work out, but all of them agreed to participate. Good, then this is decided. We will ask Midoriya about it and hope that he agrees to test where his boundaries are. Everyone went home at that statement except for All Might, Sir Night-Eye, Gran Torino and Detective Naomasa. So you gave him one for all, Toshinori. Yes, he is a true hero in my eyes. He definitely is strong, said Night-Eye. The thing is, he. Spit it out, Toshinori. Gran Torino said, hitting him over the head with his walking stick. He didn't even use one for all in that fight until the end. So you are suggesting that he is way stronger than anyone ever thought? Yes. All Might and the others talked in private about Izuku and how strong he is. Izuku was walking home when he saw his mother already waiting at the door of their home. Izuku. Are you alright? His mother screamed while hugging him so hard even he wasn't strong enough to get out of the bear hug. Why, yeah, I am fine, thank Kami. I made katsudon, your favorite. Thanks mom. Izuku went into his room to get a new pair of pants and a new shirt as his were still stained with phone buzzed as he was changing. He looked at his phone as he saw a couple messages from Iida, Tsuyu, Kirishima, Tokiyami and most importantly for Izuku many messages from Uraraka. Are you okay? Please send me a message when you are home. Izuku blushed at the messages from Uraraka but he decided he would need more time to answer her. Izuku ate dinner with his mother. After that he started messaging everyone in his class that he was okay and that they didn't need to. He started to write the first message to Uraraka. His heart started to beat faster, he got more nervous with every word typed. Uraraka was lying in her bed sobbing into her pillow as she was thinking about Izuku getting hit into the wall, his head hanging down and the blood pouring down. I really hope Izuku is okay, she said still sobbing into her pillow. Suddenly she heard a ding. She looked at her phone in hope that it was Izuku's message and not the class. Heart stopped for a moment as she saw the message Izuku 3. Hey Uraraka, I am good, what about you? Uraraka couldn't contain her happiness and started typing on her phone. I am good too, have your injuries healed? Yeah, everything's fine now. Smiley face. Uraraka let out a relieved sigh when she noticed that she was floating across her room. I'll be going to eat dinner now and then go tonight. Good night Izuku. As she sent that text she saw that she accidentally called him Izuku instead of floated a couple minutes in her room until her parents came into the room to call her down for dinner. Izuku was confused that Uraraka had called him by his first name but brushed it off as he was going to eat. Midoriya was about to go to bed. He saw a message from All Might. Meet me in the teacher's lounge tomorrow morning. Before hoped that he wouldn't get punished for fighting with the drifted off to sleep thinking about what happened over the course of the day. Izuku woke up on the next morning still a bit tired from the USJ. Happily ate the breakfast that his mother prepared, showered and went to the train station after changing into his school uniform. As Izuku was on the train to UA he looked at the news on his phone. UA attacked by villains. First year defeats over 100 villains. Izuku was shocked that the media made such a huge deal out of the attack, but for him it was kind of logical as it was the top hero course in Japan. He thought about some things that the villains said. The Nomu is strong enough to kill All Might. Izuku still didn't know how that was possible, but he definitely knew that they weren't lying as he felt the punch of the Nomu. Izuku looked up and saw that he was almost at his station, so he got up and waited for the train to stop. After he had gotten out of the train and left the station he met Iida on his way and talked about Iida's brother Ingenium and other heroes. When they reached the school they were greeted by a lot of looks from the other classes as the USJ attack was the thing that most of the classes were talking. They reached their classroom. Izuku remembered that he had to go to the teacher's lounge and meet All Might there. Sorry Iida, but I have to go to the teacher's lounge, Izuku said while walking faster into the direction of the teacher's lounge. Don't run in the school building, Iida said while making robotic movements with his hands. As Izuku arrived at the teacher's lounge he knocked on the door and was let in by President Mike. Izuku saw all the teachers, Principal Nezu and a police officer sitting there waiting for him. Welcome Midoriya, said Nezu, please take a seat. Izuku sat down on the free seat next to the skinny All Might and Aizawa. Do you know why we had you come here? I guess because of the USJ incident. Yes and no. First we want to thank you for helping Aizawa and we want to talk about the meeting we had yesterday. Most of the current top 10 pro heroes were there and we all agreed to test your limits. Test my limits? In like another exam? Not like the exam, but we want you to fight some pro heroes and the teachers to determine your full. You want to see the maximum of your power? Yes sure. Good then this is decided. Please come to the entrance of the school building on Saturday 10 a.m. Alright then I will go to my classroom now. And with this Midoriya left the teacher's lounge and went on his way to the rest of the school. Week went by pretty. Friday Aizawa told them that they have a week to prepare for the sports festival. Izuku woke up on Saturday at 6 a.m. and ate breakfast, went on a jog and trained and noticed that it was already 9 a.m. and started his way to UA. Arrived 5 minutes early and decided it would be best if he waited directly in front of the school building. After 5 minutes he heard Nezu talking to President Mike, which shortly after came out of the school. President Mike took Izuku to the battleground beta where already a go signal was told that there were some pro heroes and teachers he had to fight. Izuku was nervous that he now had to fight pro heroes and his teachers. Go! President Mike yelled. Izuku started running through the city when suddenly wood came shooting out of an alleyway which Izuku easily dodged. Kamui Woods jumped out of the alleyway and used his super move to capture Izuku, but he jumped back and caught the wood with his hand and pulled as hard as he could so Kamui Woods would get flung over to Izuku so that he could punch him in the stomach. Kamui flew back a few meters when a golden blur hit Izuku in the back, making him fall to the ground. When he looked back, he saw an old man in a golden suit, but when he was about to attack the old man, he saw a stamp flying towards him which he barely dodged. 3 pro heroes against 1. Damn it, I need to find an opening. With that, he decided to use one of his new supermoves, Godspeed. Around Izuku's arms there started to form blue lightning which slowly covered his whole hair, lit up with a light green aura. Before Gran Torino could land a hit on Izuku, he disappeared and reappeared behind him a second later and punched him into the next building. Kamui and Sir Night-Eye looked scared at the pure power of Izuku. Suddenly Kamui Woods saw Izuku's face just centimeters before him and punched him down into the ground. Sir Night-Eye looked in terror as Izuku just took out 2 strong ex-pro heroes within seconds, but what would come next scared him even more. He just saw flames and earth beasts appear out of nowhere. Endeavor and the Wild Pussycats showed up just before Izuku could take out Sir Night-Eye. Watch out, he's extremely fast. Sir Night-Eye shouted at the others, but before he had finished the sentence the earth beasts had been destroyed. Mandalay and Ragdoll were knocked out. Tiger and Pixie Bob jumped back while looking for Izuku when he appeared in front of them with a blank look on his, tried punching Izuku in the face, but he held Tiger's hand up and threw him into the next building. Pixie Bob created 4 of her beasts which didn't stand a chance against Izuku. Pixie Bob was knocked out a few seconds later with a light punch against her head. All she heard was a "sorry" from Izuku when he punched her. Now Endeavor knew that he could fire his flames at Izuku freely. Izuku turned his head to the right and saw the fire coming at him. He simply held his hand up and the fire went around his body so it didn't hit him, at which Endeavor just looked shocked that a child was able to defend from one of his attacks. Izuku looked at Endeavor with a deadly glare in his eyes, at which Endeavor took a step back, but before Izuku could attack him his clothes were pulled together so he couldn't move and just fell over. All of them looked in shock as Izuku just stood back up again, now unaffected by Best Jeanist's quirk, and before Izuku could be restrained again he took down Best Jeanist and Endeavor within seconds. Sir Night-Eye threw 5 of his stamps at Izuku in hope that one would hit him to give him a few seconds to get close to him and see his next of them actually hit Izuku square in the face, but he seemed unaffected by it and turned towards Sir Night-Eye. Sir Night-Eye stopped dead in his tracks and tried to run to the next heroes so that they could regroup, but that didn't work as Izuku took him out with ran towards the exit he should head to and saw a group of heroes on the way he was to fight. Edgeshot, Mirko and Eraserhead waited on top of a building and went to attack Izuku. As Eraserhead erased Izuku's quirk, the blue lightning and green aura disappeared. Edgeshot stretched his body with the speed of sound to knock Izuku out, but he just put his arm up and nullified the attack, which shocked all of them as he technically shouldn't have a quirk right now. Izuku looked at Aizawa, Mirko and Edgeshot while taking his fists into the air and smashing them down onto the ground, which broke the concrete beneath him and the building on which the pro heroes were standing. They jumped down from the building when Mirko jumped up and tried to kick Izuku in the head, well knowing how strong he looked up and smirked at Mirko, which got a confused look from her. Before Mirko could kick Izuku in the face, he grabbed her foot and knocked her out with a kick to her chin, which shocked Eraser and Edgeshot to an extent that both of them deactivated their immediately took advantage of that fact and activated Godspeed again. Izuku teleported next to Aizawa and took him out with an forearm smash. As Aizawa was falling down, Edgeshot knew that he was slower than Izuku, and he was right. Izuku teleported behind Edgeshot and took him out with a hit to the head. Izuku looked down the street and saw Crust and Gang Orca walking into an alleyway to ambush Izuku, but he was smart enough to outplay ran on the buildings towards the alley where they were hiding. Izuku stood above them and saw that both of them stood next to each other and that they could be taken out without a big jump down, and landed on both of their heads, knocking out Crust. Gang Orca withstood the blow from Izuku's foot but was taken out seconds later by a hit from Izuku's arm. Match end was heard from the speakers. Izuku teleported all of the knocked out heroes to the nurse's room. Present Mike, All Might, Nezu and 13 came from the observation room. That was amazing, young Midoriya, said the skinny All Might. You truly have strength that no one has ever proven except for All Might. You will truly become the next Smibble of Peace, exclaimed Nezu happily. Izuku was happy that Nezu called him the next symbol of peace. You can go home now, thank you for letting us see how strong you truly are. That was nothing, I have to thank you for letting me show you my strength, Izuku said before going home. As all of the pro heroes woke up in the different nurse rooms, they asked the essential question, did we win? They all felt like they knew the answer, but they wanted to be sure. Principal Nezu just shook his head, and all of the pro heroes were now either amazed at Izuku's performance or angry that they were taken out. So watched the replay, and all of them were sure that he would even surpass All Might if he hasn't already surpassed him. As Izuku was going home, he didn't think much about the fight with the pro heroes, as he was more focused on the sports festival and how to train and prepare for the sports festival. Izuku went home and ate lunch, thinking about the forest where he defeated the first Nomu and how he could train more fighting styles there. With the old training, made his way to the forest a bit later and started trying out new moves. If I stack one for all on top of Godspeed, I could increase my speed even further. Izuku activated Godspeed and stacked 20% one for all to not deal too much damage to the area. Izuku tried to run with the 20% and broke the ground around him, but was nearly twice as fast as if he had just used Godspeed. Alright, now I can go faster, but I need to find something that makes me stronger. Izuku thought about different fighting styles and weapons when he got and manifested iron rods and threw them up and created a small tornado around him, which caught the iron rods and swung them around Izuku. They weren't fast enough to kill someone but could have still knocked someone out. Izuku had another idea as he held up his hand pointing at the sun and yelled, "Fireball!" A giant fireball appeared above his hand. Izuku pointed his hand at a nearby tree and the fireball flew directly to the tree and burned it. Izuku wanted something that could be used to not hurt his enemy too much and not kill them like his fireball attack. Izuku then activated One for All and heated up his hand to the point where it started to smoke, and then he hit the next tree, which left a brand mark and destroyed it. This should increase the effect of weaker punches as well, so they still can deal a decent blow and won't make me so tired. Izuku went on to train with the old equipment that was left there, and he even found some weights to gain more muscles and maybe let him get more control over his quirk. Izuku used God mode and destroyed a couple trees when he reached his limit and felt him slowly losing control over his powers, but he tried to hang on a bit longer and he managed to increase his time by 2 minutes in God mode. Izuku sat down and drank some water as he saw someone approaching the area and hoped that it wasn't a hero, or otherwise he might get in. Then he saw who it was. All Might. "What are you doing here? I was looking for you and the last time we met it was here," All Might said in his skinny form. "Nezu, present Mike, some other teachers and I watched you and we were speechless at how strong you were, and I have to say that I believe that you are currently the strongest people on Earth." Izuku couldn't believe what he heard. "Did you just say that I am the strongest person on Earth?" "Yes, young Midoriya, we saw your display of power and it's unmatched. Your full power is truly amazing." "But I didn't even use my full power." All Might was shocked to hear that Izuku had power to spare. How much power did you use?" "I only used one of my abilities, so I would say about 30%. One for All 5%. Other powers, abilities 20%, God mode 30%, Demon mode 30%, Godspeed 15%. All Might didn't want to think about what could happen if Izuku used his full power or if he was a villain. All Might asked Izuku to show him some of his power and he demonstrated the stacked Godspeed and Fireball to All Might. "Young Midoriya, you are combining multiple abilities to make your attacks stronger. Even some pro heroes had difficulties making their moves stronger." All Might turned into his strong form and wanted Izuku to attack him. "Are you sure, All Might?" "Yes, I truly want to see how strong you have become in the past 10 months. Izuku prepared to attack All Might and activated Godspeed with 5% One for All to not hurt him. All Might sprinted towards Izuku, but he jumped up while blocking the punch from All Might. As Izuku was above All Might, he hit him with a right hook to the face, at which All Might punched above him, but Izuku was already gone. The only thing he hit were the trees above him. Izuku was behind All Might and punched him in the Might flew into the next tree but got up with ease. "I think I should have joined the match with the other pros, then we would have won," said All Might confidently. "If you think so." "God mode," yelled Izuku as his eyes turned glowing white, with his pupils turning a bright, gained a white aura which emitted a warm might. Was in shock as he felt that Izuku was stronger than before. Izuku teleported from side to side with such speed that even the fastest pro heroes and villains couldn't match. With his might punched in the general direction of Izuku, but was met with his shockwave coming back at him. All Might couldn't believe that Izuku was strong enough to match his shockwaves, but he felt proud at the same. Just said, I didn't create this shockwave, it is one of my strongest moves, full counter. It deflects the opponent's attack and launches it with full power back. All Might was shocked that Izuku could throw attacks before All Might could recover from the hit that he had gotten from Izuku. He already felt the next hit. Izuku barraged All Might with hits from all sides and didn't let him get a single moment of recovery time, so he was only in defense, and Not Might felt that his time was going down and that he couldn't win against Izuku. Izuku saw the smoke coming from All Might's body and stopped attacking him as All Might turned back to his skeleton form. So I guess it's my win, Izuku said with a happy smile. Yes, I have to say you really are strong, Midoriya. Thanks All Might, and for the sports festival that's coming up I want you to show everyone at the sports festival that you are here. Alright, I will do that then. Now go home and start to train your body more so you can build up your powers, as you can only use 55% of one for all right now. Thank you All Might, I will see you next week, goodbye Midoriya. And with that both of them went home and started doing push. The rest of the week Izuku could increase one for all by 5% and gain 10 minutes to his powers before losing control. Then the sports festival came around. Izuku woke up on the morning of the sports festival with a lot of energy to spend during the day. He ate the breakfast his mother made him and went to school a bit earlier than normally, so he could talk to his friends about the sports festival a bit. As he left the station he already saw Iida running up to him. Good morning Iida. Good morning Midoriya. How are you doing? I'm fine Iida, what about you? I'm good as well. We should get to the classroom now, Iida said with his robotic expression. They went to the classroom and saw that most of their class were already in their seats or talking to each other. Aizawa came in after everyone was in their seats and began talking. Today is the day of the sports festival, so get into your PE clothing and wait near the bus. When they entered the bus and drove to the stadium they could already hear Present Mike hyping up the crowd. Most of the class was already at the edge of their seats when they were in the prep room for Class 1A. Todoroki approached Izuku. Midoriya, Todoroki. What is it? Looking at things I would say, I'm stronger than you. But All Might has his eyes on you, doesn't he? I'm not going to pry about that. But I'm going to beat you, but you should know that I'm not going back down this easily. Kirishima wanted to calm down the situation. Whoa, what's with the negative energy all of a sudden? But before he could try to help with the situation a bit more, Iida came in. The sports festival is about to begin. And with that everyone left the room and waited in the long hallway until they were called out by Present Mike. Now here come the ones that survived the villain attack. Hero Class 1A. Everyone went wild in the stadium as the students of Class 1A came out. Wow, so many people, it's scary, said Mina. Yeah, it's really nerve-wracking, said Zero. Present Mike announced the other classes and most of them glared at Class 1A as they had all the eyes on them after the villain attack. Midnight stood on the stage and gave her speech that they should do their best before she had to call up the first-year representative. Izuku, Midoriya, please come to me on the stage and give your speech. Izuku went up to the stage as he heard other students talking about how stuck up Class 1A is. As Izuku stood there when everyone looked at him, he started his speech. I hope that everyone gives their best and can show the world what heroes are made of. I wish everyone in this tournament the best of luck and may the best win. Everyone was in awe at Izuku's speech about being heroes, and with his speech he even broke the perception of the other classes that saw them as stuck up, and because of Izuku's speech they looked at them differently now. Izuku walked down the stairs from the stage and saw everyone in the crowd applauding him and getting a thumbs up from his friends. As everyone had calmed down, Midnight announced what they would do first. Many of them were preparing for the obstacle race by stretching as Izuku talked to Iida and Ochako how the race might work out. They all heard the announcement made by Present Mike. 3, 2, 1, go. And with that everyone rushed to get out of the tunnel, but most of them were frozen by Todoroki, who was the first one to leave the tunnel. Most of Class 1A were able to get out in front of the other classes, but some of the Class 1B managed to get through Todoroki's ice too. Bakugo and Todoroki were fighting in front of everyone as they just rushed through the first objective, freezing and blowing up 3 0-pointers. Others had more difficulty with passing the other robots and 0-pointers. Kirishima and Tetsu were crushed by one of the 0-pointers Todoroki had frozen, but due to their quirks they didn't die. As all of them wanted to pass the robots, they just heard a couple explosions and noticed that the 0-pointers were completely annihilated from the waist up. What happened? The robots are destroyed. Present Mike announced over the speaker. Then everyone saw Izuku with a white and golden aura around him just floating where one of the 0-pointers stood. All of them looked in shock at how strong Izuku was, and some of his classmates were terrified that he could lose control like the last time in the USJ, but he turned around with a big smile and said, "What are you waiting for? The race doesn't complete itself." After Izuku said this, all of them started to run again and passed the first objective with ease thanks to Izuku. When they reached the second obstacle, the students with quirks that could make them fly passed the objective with ease. When Uraraka was in the air, she suddenly felt the urge to throw up and couldn't use her quirk correctly anymore, which made her fall. She thought she lost the tournament and just wanted to curl up in a ball and go home. But before she reached the ground, something held her up, so she wouldn't lose. She looked up and saw Izuku with a bright smile and said with a light chuckle, "Would be bad luck if you fell right." He took Uraraka to the other side of the obstacle and then flew off to Todoroki and Bakugo, who were fighting for first place just before the minefield. Izuku saw that they had reached the minefield and decided to have some fun. He flew directly behind the two and stepped on two mines behind them. They both flew away from the impact from the mine. Izuku laughed at Bakugo but felt a bit bad for Todoroki, so he helped him up when he was attacked by Bakugo. Bakugo was pissed at Izuku and tried to blast the mines below him to make them explode, but Izuku just flew away and landed back in the arena as Present Mike announced that he had won the first event. Bakugo was looking at Izuku like he would attack him any second now, trying to kill him. Todoroki had the same expression as always on his face and walked over to Izuku. "I'm going to say this once and not again, I don't need your help." Izuku was a bit confused at that statement but remembered that he helped him up when he was knocked down from the mine explosion. "Alright then, I guess this is a full-out war now," Izuku said, smirking at Todoroki. Todoroki just ignored what Izuku said and went back to where he was standing earlier. Midnight then congratulated the top 42 who passed and spun the wheel for the next event. Midnight announced that they would now do a cavalry battle. As Midnight is announced how the points were distributed among the top 42, and when she came to the first place she got a devilish grin on her face and licked her lips. "And for first place we have a delicious 10 million points." Everyone was silent and looked at Izuku, who had a look of shock on his face and was pale. When they were allowed to choose their teams, Izuku was ignored by most people and was starting to panic but composed himself again. "Alright, if I am flying I need to find someone who can fly and help us stay in the air," Izuku thought. He then ran around trying to find Uraraka. "Hey Uraraka, do you want to join my team?" Sure Midoriya. Uraraka was a bit flustered that Izuku wanted to have her on his team. Izuku then wandered around in search for Tokiyami, which he shortly after found. "Hey Tokiyami, do you want to join my team?" "Of course Midoriya, you have a plan, don't you?" "Yes I do." Now he needed to find someone who had a quirk that could make them fly, levitate. Suddenly someone jumped up in front of Izuku. "Hey, you're that boy who is worth 10 million points, right?" Yeah, that's me. I'm Mei Hatsume and I'm from the support department and want to show my new babies," she said while pointing at her gadgets. Izuku noticed a jetpack on her back. "Is that a jetpack on your back?" "Yes, it can fly for up to 20 minutes without landing." "Perfect, then we can form a team," Izuku said, happy that his plan worked out. When everyone was in position, the air was almost as tense as the time the villains attacked. Izuku was in front, Uraraka and Mei in the back and Tokiyami on top to defend the headbands with Dark Shadow. As Midnight announced the start of the cavalry battle, everyone made a mad dash towards Izuku, who just yelled, "Activate!" And Mei's jetpack activated, Uraraka made herself weightless and Izuku activated his flying quirk, and all of them including Tokiyami started to fly towards the sky. When they were high enough in the air, they stopped and waited for the match to end while talking a bit about school and heroes and stuff like that. Mei always wanted to talk about her babies but was always cut off by Tokiyami. When they heard a giant explosion below them, they saw Bakugo flying towards them and pointing his hands towards Izuku's team, readying him to blow them to pieces. But before Bakugo could blow them up, Present Mike yelled, "Time's up." Bakugo's face was filled with rage that he wasn't able to beat up Izuku. But before he realized it, he already fell down and had to make a lot of small explosions to stop him from falling. Everyone on Izuku's team got down safely though, thanks to all of their flying abilities. The teams that passed are the same as in canon. As everyone was told they now had a 1-hour break and that they could now go out and enjoy a nice meal, or the students went out of the arena and either went to get food or just relax before the event. Izuku went outside the stadium, got himself some mochi and went to lay down under a cherry blossom tree eating some mochi and thinking about whom he'll fight in the next event or what they were doing. Izuku looked up in the sky and was thinking about his future as a hero when he suddenly heard someone call out his name, "Hey Midoriya. How are you doing?" He looked up to see Uraraka coming towards him. "Hey Uraraka, I'm fine, what about you?" Izuku said, "I'm good, although a bit nervous at what comes next. Don't worry, you'll do just fine." When Uraraka was almost next to him, she said, "Thanks Midoriya, by the way, do you know where I can get mochi?" "You can have mine, I'm not that hungry," Izuku said while staring up into the sky again. Oh thanks Midoriya," Uraraka said, flustered that Midoriya gave her the mochi. Uraraka sat next to Izuku eating the mochi happily. Izuku and Uraraka both sat under the cherry blossom talking about heroes and what they would be doing next at the sports festival. They were laughing and having fun while Uraraka finished up the mochi. When they stood up, they could hear Present Mike yell through the speaker system that now everyone should get back in the stadium as they are continuing the matches in 5 minutes. Izuku and Uraraka hurried into the stadium and went up to 1A's part of the school's arena. When the next event was about to begin, Midnight stepped up on the stand and announced what they would do next, and as Izuku already thought, it was a battle tournament where they would fight in a 1vs1 to determine the strongest student. As they announced the first match, Izuku had to leave his friends as he would fight a boy from the general education's department. As Izuku was about to leave, most people in his class wished him good luck in winning except for Todoroki, as he wasn't there, and Bakugo of course, who just snarled at Izuku. When Izuku was standing in the tunnel, he turned around and saw Todoroki standing at the end, and he looked a bit confused at Todoroki after he said, "Don't lose yet, I need to prove something to someone by beating you." But Izuku didn't have time to think about what Todoroki said long, because he was called out to stage by Present Mike with the words, "And now comes the student who defeated all the villains at USJ by himself," which got a huge uproar from most of the heroes and civilians in the stands of the arena. As Izuku left the tunnel, he heard Present Mike announce Shinso, who was getting up to the battle arena now too. He reminded Izuku a bit of his teacher Aizawa. Shinso stood on the opposite of the arena and was looking at Izuku with what should have been an intimidating stare. Midnight asked them if both of them were ready to. Both replied with a simple nod. Midnight started the match and Shinso began talking to Izuku how amazing his quirk is and that he himself will never be a hero just because Izuku got a better quirk than him. It was at this moment Izuku stopped running towards Shinso and opened his mouth, to which Shinso began grinning slightly. But when he wanted to use brainwashing on it didn't work, and he heard what Izuku said, "You can be a hero, not all heroes have a flashy quirk." Shinso looked down and rushed at Izuku and tried to punch him in the face, which Izuku blocked easily. "So you finally got the fighting spirit going, then I won't use my quirk too." At this statement everyone in the arena was shocked to hear that he wanted to even out the fight for Shinso. All Might was proud that he chose Izuku as the next symbol of peace. But the fight didn't last long as Izuku had a strength advantage over Shinso. When the fight ended, Izuku gave Shinso his hand and helped him up. After Izuku's match, the other matches were either already decided from the beginning or were a mockery, as in Iida's and Mei's match. The only match which truly was interesting for Izuku was the match between Kirishima and Tetsu, as this was the only close one. Izuku and Todoroki were called out by Present Mike to come down to the battle arena. As they went down the stairs, Todoroki turned to Izuku and told him, "You are somehow connected to All Might, so I have to beat you," and with this he left the confused Izuku on the stairs. Izuku didn't know what he had just heard from Todoroki but ignored it as he now had to go into the arena. The whole stadium went nuts as the hero of USJ was about to fight the son of the number 2 hero. Izuku stood on the opposite side of the arena directly looking Todoroki in the eyes. It was at this moment Izuku knew what he meant with that: he has to beat him. His father never got to beat All Might, so he sends out his son to do that for him. What an asshole. "Todoroki, Midoriya, are you ready?" Both of them just nodded, coldly staring at each other. "Then let the battle begin." Todoroki immediately made a giant ice attack even bigger than the one he used on Zero. Izuku was engulfed in Todoroki's ice, and he heard Midnight speak up. "And the winner is..." Before she could end the announcement, the ice looked like it heated up and it broke with a loud crack, and standing unharmed in the middle was Izuku. Izuku looked at Todoroki, told him, "Do you really think I go down with just 50% of your power? You have to use it all." "I will never use his side. It's not his quirk. It's your quirk." Everyone in the stadium went silent that Izuku was helping his enemy overcome his past. It was at that moment that Todoroki remembered the same words from his mother and knew that both of them were right. It is his power, not the one of his. Activated his flames and said, "Thank you, Midoriya," with a smile. "So you finally accepted your power, Shoto." Endeavor shouted from the stands where the most heroes were sitting. "I didn't accept your power, it's mine and not yours." He shouted back, "Now shut up and watch, old man." Endeavor was furious at what his son said but decided to sit down as it still could be part of his childish rebellion, as he liked to call, and Todoroki were now in for a full-out war against each other. Todoroki shot his flames at Izuku while he powered up Godspeed and won for all 50% and dashed towards Todoroki. "Midnight, we need to stop this now." Yes, they could get themselves killed. Midnight and Smintos tried stopping the fight. The walls that Smintos made were broken easily by Izuku and Todoroki, and Midnight's gas was dispersed by the immense speed both of their attacks carried with them. Both of their attacks met in the middle of the arena, creating giant explosion that destroyed most of the arena. Everyone had one thought: how strong are those two? As the smoke was dying down, the whole stadium went silent, and what they saw shocked was lying knocked out on the ground outside the arena with large cuts all over his body, while Izuku was standing in the destroyed arena completely unharmed. Midnight then announced, "Midoriya wins." Everyone in the arena was silent at first, but then a giant uproar of cheers for Izuku and went over to Todoroki and helped the now awake Todoroki to the nurse's office. "Thank you, Midoriya." "No problem, Todoroki, that's what friends are there for," he said with a big smile on his face. As they arrived in the nurse's office, Todoroki got healed but had to regain his stamina for the next 10 minutes. Izuku went back up to his class to watch the next match. When he arrived, he got a lot of compliments from his classmates. He watched the other matches until it was his turn again to fight against Iida. Both of the students stood up and got best of luck wishes. As Iida and Izuku were walking down the stairs to the tunnel, Iida talked to Izuku. "I wish you the best of luck and may the best win." "Good luck to you too, Iida," and with that both of them left to their respective entrances to the stadium. And now the match between Tenya Iida and Izuku Midoriya. Both of them looked at them with a smile and not the cold look from the other matches. "Midoriya, Iida, are you ready?" "Yes, of course. 3, 2, 1, go." Iida ran over to Izuku almost 0.1 seconds after the round began, but Izuku just teleported to the other side of the arena and turned around. "Guess I'm still faster than you," and with that Iida was pushed out of the arena by Izuku. Midoriya wins. "Sorry Iida, but I have to win this." "Don't worry Midoriya, this is a battle, only the stronger one can win, and this time it was definitely you who was stronger." Both of them went back up to Class 1A's seating. The next match was between Tokiyami and Bakugo, which Bakugo won easily as Tokiyami is weak against light. As Tokiyami came back, everyone tried to lighten up the mood. "Don't worry Tokiyami, I think you did great Kiro." "Thank you Sue," Tokiyami said, a bit flustered. "Izuku, Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo, please come down to the arena for the final fight." Both of them stood up and Izuku got best of luck wishes from everyone in their class and Bakugo got none as he just angrily walked off. Izuku followed quickly behind Bakugo as he didn't want to be late to the fight. As he caught up to Bakugo, he turned around and almost shouted, "I will crush you with no mercy." At which Izuku recoiled a little. Both were called into the arena and stood opposite of each other with a cold look in their faces. "Are you two ready?" Both of them just nodded, at which the whole stadium just stopped the cheers and were so concentrated on the fight that you could hear a pin drop. 3, 2, 1, go, was heard from the speakers around the stadium, but neither of the contestants moved. "You really think you're stronger than me, don't you? I know when I win. Why don't I hurt your mom or round face up there?" Bakugo said with an evil smirk. He attacked that girl with no remorse earlier and now he's threatening to hurt someone's mom. He isn't a hero but more like a villain, was the thought most of the people in the arena. Everyone's thought was interrupted by an evil aura. Izuku was standing looking down on the floor with a pissed off look while having an evil aura around him. Everyone in the arena was scared that he could have such an evil aura around. Looked slowly up to face Bakugo. Bakugo had a scared look on his face as he noticed that Izuku had black eyes and red pupils. Ba-ku-go, Bakugo took a step backwards as he never heard his childhood friend call out his last name. His body telling him to run away as fast as he can as Izuku moved his foot to take the first step towards Bakugo. As Izuku's foot made contact with the ground, the whole arena and the grass up until the walls of the stadium were cracked, and with the next step Izuku turned the arena into a giant crater. He then lashed out at Bakugo, smashing him into the other side of the arena. Midnight couldn't even talk as she was too scared of Izuku. Midoriya wins. Izuku then turned back into his normal form and the evil aura disappeared. As everyone regained their posture, they began to cheer loudly at Izuku winning the sports festival. As the medals were handed out, Bakugo was just silently standing on the second place, was given third place as Iida had to go away for family reasons. The top three got their medals handed by All Might and received a hug from him, which was mostly weird except for Izuku's hug. All Might screwed up the cheer as he didn't say, plus ultra. But instead, well done. But otherwise the rest of the sports festival went smoothly. Izuku woke up 2 days after the sports festival ended as they had received a day off after the sports festival, ate breakfast, changed into his school uniform and went to the train station from where he goes to UA High. But before he reached his stop, a lot of people noticed him in the train and congratulated him on his win in the sports festival. After he left the train, the compliments and congratulations from random people on the streets didn't stop. He reached his classroom and almost everyone was there. He sat down and heard that some of his classmates got compliments from other people on the streets too. "Hey Midoriya, did people on the streets recognize you?" Uraraka asked. "Yeah, I got a lot of people congratulating me," Midoriya said. Aizawa opened the door and went into the classroom and stood behind the teacher's desk. Everyone was already sitting in their seats as soon as they had heard the door slide open. Good morning, sensei," was the response the class gave him. "Today we will be picking hero names," he said, trying to look happy. Midnight came into the room and told them how important it would be to pick a good-sounding hero name as it will stick with them forever. Everyone went to the front to show the hero name they thought of. Not all were accepted by Midnight, but as soon as Suyu went to the front and presented her hero name, and after she presented it, everyone got new ideas on what they should do. The others went by pretty quickly as they had gathered all of their brainpower to come up with something good. As Bakugo tried to name himself more like a villain than a hero, everyone in his class sweat dropped at his old personality being back. "Midoriya, would you come up front and present your hero name please?" Midnight asked Izuku. After Izuku took a big breath in, he stood up and went to the front of the class. Everyone was now interested at what the strongest person of their entire school was going to choose. "The godlike hero, Hypernova," Izuku said. Most of his classmates were taken back for a moment that he chose to compare himself to a god, but then remembered that he defeated the Nomu that was as strong as All Might and even stood back up from being tossed through the USJ like nothing happened, even though he had blood stains all over him. As everyone was finished with their hero name presentation, Aizawa woke back up and told them about the results from the sports festival. This year happened something that never has happened before, even when All Might made his debut at the sports festival. Everyone was eager to hear what that was. "We got requests from heroes outside of Japan to get to work with students." All of them knew that this time it had to be special when even heroes outside of Japan wanted to get to work with students. I will now show you the list of who got requests by the pro heroes and who didn't. Midoriya 6435 Japan, 256 Germany, 29 USA, 12 UK. Todoroki 4123 Japan, 1 USA. Bakugo 2934 Japan. Tokiyami 360 Japan. Iida 301 Japan. Kaminari 272 Japan. Yaoyoruzo 108 Japan. Kirishima 68 Japan. Uraraka 20 Japan. Siro 14 Japan. Typically there's more of a spread, but our top 3 stole most of the spotlight. The class broke out in a giant conversation about how many requests the top 3 got. "Shut up," was heard from Aizawa. "For those who didn't get any requests, you can choose from 40 workplaces around Japan to work there with heroes." The class was relieved that they didn't have to sit in class while the others were doing hero work. "Oh, and Midoriya." "Yes, sensei. You got requests from the top 5 heroes from the USA, the top 3 heroes of Germany and the number 1 hero from the UK, so choose wisely." Everyone was taken aback by what Aizawa said and stared at Izuku that he got some of the best heroes in the world wanting to work with him. Why do so many pros want to work with me? Was all Izuku could think before Aizawa let the class go to eat lunch. So have you decided where you want to go, Midoriya? Uraraka said. No, not really, there are just too many options. It's of course expected that you have hard time choosing from almost 7,000 pro heroes, Iida told both of them. They went into the cafeteria, got their food and sat down talking and eating. When they went back into their classroom, Izuku looked at whom he got requests by and saw someone who got his attention. The invincible hero. Ban seems interesting, I think I'll go with him. Izuku wrote Ban's name onto the paper and went home as school was now over. I wonder what type of person this Ban is. Izuku woke up and went to school. When he arrived, he saw Aizawa standing next to a bunch of cases with numbers on which he identified as their hero suitcases as he got closer to them. Good morning, Midoriya, you're the first one, so you can grab your case and go to this address. Thanks, Aizawa. Oh, and look after Iida, he went with Manuel and Hosu. I think you know what I mean. I really hope it's just a coincidence, but I will look after him, don't worry. Izuku went his way to go and find the address given to him by Aizawa. He had to walk for 20 minutes to the main train station of Musutafu. When he arrived there, he went into the first train that went to Hosu City. When he was in the train, he looked out of the window and thought to himself, I guess it's good that I'm in the same city as you, Iida. Izuku left the train after he reached Hosu and went to what he thought was the address of Ban's house. When he arrived there, he saw a giant area closed off by walls that almost looked like it belongs to UA. When Izuku pressed the doorbell, he waited a few seconds before the door opened. He looked at the door which just opened and saw a man looking like he was in his mid-20s. Yo, you're Midoriya, right? Izuku nodded. Good, come on in, we are going to have a fight today, and with that he went into the walled-off area. You're the invincible Ban. Yeah, so what? Ban said, seemingly disinterested by the question Izuku asked, but the next question took Ban by surprise. If you really are invincible, how long have you been alive? Damn it, I really hoped he wouldn't ask this question. Should I tell him that I'm actually over 2,000 years old, or that I'm 158 years old like I tell everyone that asks? I'm 158 years old. So you're almost as old as Quirks themselves. Yeah, what about it? Nothing, I'm just interested about learning more about you, Izuku said with a smile on his face. Today I want to see how fast and strong you are, so give it your all. Oh, and don't worry about hurting me, I'm invincible after all, Ban said confidently. They entered a building which looked plain from the outside, but when Izuku saw the inside he was shocked. It was a fully equipped gym which had weights, machines and a swimming pool. Wow, this place is amazing, was all Izuku could say. Now go into the fighting area, and we can begin your training, Ban said nonchalantly. Izuku did as he said and went to the arena-styled part of the gym. Alright, now give me all you have, Ban said, smiling maliciously. He really wants me to go all out. I mean, he is invincible, but still. I guess I have no other choice now. Izuku focused and started up God and Demon mode. Ban began to feel uneasy, feeling the aura from Izuku that could rival the Demon Lords. Ban wanted to ask him what this power is, but he was terrified when he saw that Izuku had black eyes and white glowing pupils. He could only see the blur that Izuku left behind when he started running towards Ban. Ban never thought he would get this feeling, but he felt like he was about to saw Izuku reappear directly in front of him. Before even a second could pass, Izuku punched Ban right above his heart. Gore warning, if you can't read about bones breaking, you should skip this part. Ban's rib cage was shattered into a million pieces, puncturing his already ruptured lungs, leaving him breathless. Ban could feel that this power was different from anything he had felt over the years. He was only able to get one thought into his head: how strong is this kid? His back was broken immediately from the impact of Izuku's hit. At this point Ban could only spit out blood. His neck broke, and he felt that a sharp pain was running through his face and broke his right half of the face, but due to the cracks being small they healed almost at the same time that they appeared. Gore end. Ban hit the ground, leaving a giant crater there. Seconds after Izuku's hand made contact with Ban, he was lying half dead on the ground. Izuku rushed over to see the state Ban was in. Izuku thought that he had just killed him, as he imagined Ban just couldn't take any damage because of his invincibility. Hey, are you alright, Ban-sensei? Izuku yelled out in shock that he might have killed one of the best pro heroes to date. Ban's arms twitched as his body began to slowly repair itself. Izuku saw this and was slightly relieved that he wasn't dead. Ban healed completely after 10 seconds and just looked at Izuku in awe and shock that he was strong enough to make Ban scared for his life. What was that power that you just used? Well, I call it demon and god mode, Izuku said, scratching his head. So this kid can actually summon the power of the demon and god. He uses this power and turns into a villain. It could be the end of the world. Ban was only able to think about how dangerous Izuku could be. Are you alright, Ban? Why, yeah, sorry, I was just a little shocked by your punch. After Ban and Izuku went to sit on a bench outside the gym, Ban asked him a question he always asks the students that come to the internship with him. Why do you want to be a hero? I want to help the people that can't help themselves and stop all evil in this world. This kid is the real deal, was all that Ban could think when hearing Izuku's genuine words. I think he deserves to know my real identity. Yo Midoriya, yes Ban, I think you deserve to know the truth about my so-called quirk. In reality it isn't a quirk. Wait, what? Ban told Izuku the story about how he got his sin and how he went on to live for more than 2,000 years until now, and about how he actually got his immortality and about all the things he saw and did during the years. Izuku was stunned at hearing that one of the top pro heroes doesn't have a quirk but instead is basically immortal. So you're telling me that there were gods and demons in our world? Izuku asked, kind of scared at the thought of beings even more powerful than the best pro heroes. Yep, and all of them are insanely strong. Then I have to get strong enough to even defeat them, Izuku said, determined, which shocked Ban. Well, I got a plan, but first let us finish this internship, and then we can meet up someday. Alright then, let us go and train some more. Not too fast, it's already 10 p.m., so we will go to bed and tomorrow we can see what you can do at your best. Ban showed Izuku where he would be sleeping and then both of them went to bed. In Ban's mindscape, what do you think about the kid? He is extremely strong but also brave and is going to defeat all the evil in this world. What's his power level? I can't tell his exact power level, but when he used the powers earlier I was able to see that he was around 900,000. 900,000? Are you kidding me, Merlin? No, it seems like he could defeat any of the sins with ease. He will become stronger, I can feel it. So do I, but you need to sleep right now to find out more about his powers tomorrow.